If you are disappointed with your landscape images, if your landscape photos are looking flat and cluttered, and if they are lacking the spaciousness and beauty that made you to press the shutter in the first place, you need to take a closer look at your processing. In this video, I will show you how to create a structure for your edit and simply get you from here to here. So if you want to learn how to improve your landscapes, how to add depth and beautiful color to your images, keep watching. Hi everyone, this is Kasia Zmokla. Welcome to my channel, where you will always find photo editing training and educational tips to help you grow as an artist and photographer. So today I want to talk more about structure, because Capture One is a very complex piece of software and it's super easy to just get lost in all the available tools, all these tabs. So having a clear structure, having a clear, very simple order to follow can really be super helpful for you, and you can get from an image like this that is overexposed and looks like rubbish, to be honest, and you can just improve it with a few simple steps and achieve this result. So to make it easier for you and more digestible, I have divided this tutorial into two parts. So we will begin with this image. This is our starting point. And the structure for the edit, the structure for the whole workflow is very, very simple. So first step, you need to take care of luminosity. If your luminosities are out of place, if you have some difficulties like this, here we have the issue with overexposed sky, or if you have some crushed blacks, then no matter what you will do next, if you will be working for ages on beautiful color, it doesn't matter. If your luminosities are just wrong, then it doesn't make sense to move any further. So the very first step is always to get your luminosities right and establish base for color grading. So this is what we are going to cover today. In this video, we will reach this step, and only when we have all these steps that I have just mentioned right, so luminosity, and then typically we'll desaturate the image so we don't have any clashing colors, we can move further, we can analyze the image, and we can go basically from here to here. It is simply not possible to take this image, ignore luminosity adjustments and jump right to color work. You will never reach this point, because before creating beautiful color, you need to have beautiful lights and shadows in your image. And for all of you who want to learn more in depth about this three-step workflow, I have free masterclass available, so you can sign up and you can watch the free class link available down below in the description to the video. Okay, so let's jump right to our starting point, to our original file, and let's start working on this image. So I have taken this picture in Italy, in Dolomites, and the scenery was amazing, but when I just opened up this raw file on my computer later on, I was just hugely disappointed. This just looks horrible. It doesn't even look close to what I saw when I was taking the image. So first we are going to take care of the luminosity levels, and I'm going to really start from the very beginning, because I'm going to take a look at base characteristics setting. So to do this, we need to move over to the color tab, and here is our base characteristics. So here we have our camera ICC profile. So I took this image with Fujifilm camera, and what is interesting for us is the curve. So by default, Capture One will always apply auto curve to your images, but if I have an image that is overexposed like this, it might be a really good idea to take a look at other curve settings that are available here, and take a note that these are specific for Fujifilm camera. If you are working with a different camera, you will see different things here, but surely you will have the auto setting and you will have linear response. So the linear response is not a very popular choice because it makes your image look even more flat than at the very beginning, but it is super helpful if you have some overexposed areas in your image and if you have lost detail. So let's take a quick look at before and after. This is with the auto curve and this is with the linear response. So I didn't even have to go to the HDR settings. I didn't have to try to recover my highlights over there because I can get it right here. So again, before and after. So this is the very first step that I have taken, and I would really encourage you to, from time to time, come here and try to apply different settings, because depending on the image you are working on, this can give you just way better starting point for your edit, and this is done just with one click. So that's the very first step, and let's now fix the horizon. It looks a bit off, so let's grab the straighten tool and let's just draw the line that goes along the horizon. So something like this should work. Okay, this is way better. So you need to take care basically of all the little things, because if I would have the horizon off, if I had the luminosity levels off, it really doesn't matter if I have beautiful color in place. So this applies as well to all of you who are working with styles. So you can purchase styles, you can purchase some really beautiful presets, but you need to have the basic understanding and you need to know yourself how to get to the sort of workable place, to the workable point, because if you have images that are off in terms of luminosity, then no matter what sort of presets you have, they simply won't work. Okay, let's now jump over and take a look at levels. So here let's just apply auto levels, so that way Capture One is setting the contrast for our image. If we don't like the auto setting, we can adjust it, but typically it works quite well, and in the further steps we can fine-tune it. Here maybe I will just move this one just a notch to the left, so my deepest shadows are not as dark. Okay, and as the next step I want to jump over to the HDR tool and see if I can still recover a bit more detail. So I would go with my highlights towards the negative side, so this basically harmonizes the image. It makes those bright clouds a little bit darker, but it links it stronger with the mountains. And when it comes to the shadows, let's just open up those shadows a little bit, just a notch, to have this very nice starting point for further edit. So now I'm going to be working with curves, and for this I'm going to create a new field adjustment layer, and I'm going to rename this layer to Luminosity. You might perform this adjustment on the background layer, but I like working with layers because that way you have basically more control over your image and you can perform your adjustments more smoothly. Having the complex adjustments on separate layers will help you to maintain control and flexibility. Okay, so on this layer I will be working with curves. Let's just drag our curves out of the tabs. Let's hide the browser, we don't need it for the moment. So the bigger your curves tool is, the bigger precision you will have. So here I will be working with both RGB and the Luma curve. So let's begin maybe with creating this very classic S-shaped curve on my RGB layer, and remember that by manipulating with the RGB curve we are affecting colors. So notice how those blues here in the background in those mountains, how they got saturated, how I have increased saturation by manipulating with these points. So basically here I want to just play around, add a little bit more contrast, and I will lift the black point. So I want to create this edit around those silverish warm tones, and now those blacks, they are just too deep to my liking. So let's just lift the black point and let's push this one around here. Okay, I will push this one a little bit higher up, and this one, let's just keep those dark shadows quite dark. So something like this, and let's make the bright midtones still a little bit brighter. Okay, let's now move over to our Luma curve, and here let's create one control point and let's lift it up. Okay, so we have been manipulating with curves. Let's now again go back to our HDR tool and let's try to adjust this sky further, so I can hide this one here. So let's first work with the highlights tool. I'm going to go towards quite high negative value, so I think this can be a bit too much. The sky is getting too dark, but something around negative maybe 56. So this is before and after. And I want to touch up the shadow slider a bit as well, so I will go for something around 38. So this is before and after performing the luminosity adjustments with the HDR tool. So as you can see, I am going towards setting the base for my edit. Before this adjustment, the image was basically sort of divided in half. We have this very heavy bottom, this rock in the first plan in the foreground, then the middle plan is very bluish, sort of dark, and the sky is completely bright, and it's not keeping all together nicely. So after performing the HDR adjustments, the image looks more harmonious. And if we just take a look at our curves before and after, so before it's muddy, we have the HDR adjustments in place, but it is muddy, it is lacking contrast. And if I switch off this whole layer entirely, you can see the before and after. So we can add here the HDR, so that way it will be clear what we have performed on this very layer. I want to revisit my RGB curve and make those dark midtones just a little bit darker to make the contrast a little bit stronger. Okay, something like this. Perfect. So we have in place the basic luminosity adjustments. Let's see, let's compare. This is our original image and this is what we've done so far. The color is off, the color is too strong, so let's now take care of that. So I'm going to create again new field adjustment layer, and I'm just going to rename this layer to basic color. And what I will be doing on this layer is I want to establish the basis. This will be my canvas for further adjustments, for creating masks and for fine-tuning color. So here I will be working first with color editor. So let's now jump over to the color tab and let's take a look at our color editor, the advanced tab. So in my advanced tab, I want to desaturate the whole image. So all we need to do is to just click on this plus icon here. So this will create the adjustment for the whole image. There is no selected color range, there is not selected hue. I will affect the whole image. And what I want to do is to just go towards quite a high negative value, something I would say around negative 30. So before this adjustment, if I untick this, I will see the image before applying the desaturation. The colors are clashing. So I can see in my original image, if I go here, I can see that I have these nice warm sort of beige yellowy tones in the foreground, and I can use it to my advantage to create depth in this image. I can create the first plan around these tones. I can make it warmer. I can add contrast here. I can add texture. And then I can work towards complementary color in the background to create the color contrast. So that way I will be able to create depth in this image with luminosity adjustments, but with color as well. So if we go back here, before desaturating, we can actually see that the background is stronger than the foreground. It is more interesting. We have more interesting shapes. There is this vast, beautiful view. So this sort of works now as an obstacle, and I want to fix this. By making the color less strong, now I'm able to look closer at shapes. I'm able to analyze this image in terms of both color and luminosity values, and I can look at the composition, at shapes, and I can decide what is working for me and what needs to be fixed. So if I take the annotation tool, I want to show you what is my idea for this image. So basically the image is very simple. We don't have any strong object that we would like to draw the viewer attention to. So we need to create an order here. And as I've shown you before, here on this image, we have this beautiful warm tone. So I want to create layers in this image. So basically this will be my first layer, this will be my foreground, my first plan. So here I will be working with warm tones, with yellows, with oranges. I will be working with colors that are placed here when we are looking at the color wheel. And to create color contrast, I will have to work with colors from the opposite side of the color wheel, and these colors I will apply to my background. So basically this is my background, everything that is happening here, but to create even more depth, I'm going to add one more layer and I'm going to create a distinction. So this will be basically my background and this will be far background. So by creating this sort of plan for your edit, you will have clarity. You will know which colors you can apply to the foreground, which colors you can make deeper in the background, and what treatment to apply to your further background to create depth. Without this plan in place, if I would be just looking at the image sort of randomly, it is super easy to just create a chaos. And this is really a common problem when we are working on landscape images. We are creating really cluttered, chaotic images without any depth. So either everything is oversaturated or everything is muted and there is no depth. And very often the main reason why we are actually pressing the shutter in the first place is the beautiful vastness, the beautiful depth in front of us. And we can work on it when we have a plan in place like this. So let's move over and let's continue working on our edit. So here I will be starting creating bases for my color. So on my layer basic color first, I have applied negative value on saturation for the whole image. So this is before, this is the after. And I want to perform one more adjustment here. The foreground is still less intense than the background. So I want to get my color picker and I want to further desaturate the blues. So I'm going to sample somewhere here in the shadow area where I have those blues. And I want to, let's click first on this icon, so we'll make sure that the whole saturation range of this color is included, so this will affect all those tones here in my background, and I want to go for negative value on saturation as well. Nothing crazy, I don't want to make this image gray like this, but I want to definitely just go for negative value. So something maybe around -6. So that way this is too much. Let's just go, let's type in on the keyboard -6. So that way I have my foreground stronger than the background, and this allows me to take next steps and to start working on masks. Because in the next video, when we will be working on creating color depth, we will be creating super precise masks and applying our color grading to those specific masks, and this will allow us to get to the final result. So by creating those masks, we will be able to inject our yellowy tone. We'll be able to make the foreground way warmer than the background. And then to the far background, we will be able to apply a special treatment as well. So let's jump to the point where we have left. So I have desaturated the blues. Let's now jump over to the color balance tool and let's apply few adjustments to set our basis for color grading. Okay, so when it comes to the master channel, this will apply color cast to the whole image. So I want to go for oranges here. This was very beautiful, very bright and sunny day, and definitely I want to avoid those super cold tones. So this is my master channel. When it comes to the shadows, I will go for red. I want to make those shadows deep. I want to push them towards warmer side, and I want to make them just a notch darker. So basically we have a lot of shadows in the foreground, and by adding red I'm making them warmer, and this makes them to pop up stronger. This makes them closer to the camera, to the lens, to the viewer's eye. By contrasting warm colors with cold colors, we can create the sense of distance. So always cold colors, cold hues. So basically everything that is here on the left hand side of this color wheel, everything that starts from those super cold greens, the cyan, the blue, and those cold magenta tones, all these colors create the effect of stepping backward. But if you are working with warm colors, so starting from these warm yellows and then oranges, reds, magentas, the pink color here, if you apply this color treatment to elements in your image, you will be bringing them forward in the frame. So remember, this is really important, and that way you can skillfully master your landscape images. So when it comes to the shadows, we have added a little bit of red. When it comes to the midtones, let's add a little bit of warm tone as well. So I will go for a bit of yellowy orange, and I want to make my midtones a little bit darker. Remember that the color balance tool allows you to adjust luminosity as well, apart from injecting color into selected luminosity range. This is really, really powerful and can help you to further fine-tune your edits. When it comes to the highlights, I will inject just a bit of this sort of warm reddish orange, so this affects the sky. Nothing strong, something like this, and I'm not going to be manipulating with luminosity value. So that way we have created the basis for our edit. We have adjusted luminosity ranges, we have adjusted color. So let's take a look at our steps. So this is the original image. This is where we have started. Then we have applied different setting for the curve. In the base characteristics, we have changed the auto curve to linear response. Plus, we have added some HDR adjustments. On our next layer, we've been working with curves on luminosity, and we have added some further adjustments with the HDR tool. And on our third layer, we've been working on color. So we have established the base. We have now our luminosity levels in place. So if we take a look at the histogram, we can see that most of the data is in the middle of the graph. We are not clipping any blacks. This was my conscious choice to lift up the blacks and to add a little bit lighter effect. And when we take a look at the right hand side of the histogram, we are safe here, we are not clipping any highlights. So the histogram should look good, then you are free to work further on color. Okay, so now you know how to get your luminosities right, how to make your histogram look good, how to create the basis for your color grading. And if you want to learn how to get from here to the final result, watch my next video where I will show you how to create masks and how to work with color. And remember, for those of you who want to learn a little bit more, who want to go more in depth on this 3-step edit I will encourage you to check out my free masterclass. You can find the link down below in the description to this video. So this is it for today. I hope to see you in the next video where we will finish this edit. So thanks for watching. This was Kasia Zmokla from Digital Art Classes. I hope to see you in my next video.